And we are live. Let's give it a couple of minutes to see who joins us.
Hi, everyone.
And we'll get started.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Let's see if we got anybody on yet. 0 watchers so far. Man, I am popular.
Pally Boys is on today as well at 8 o'clock. I think maybe everyone wants to know about the Hasbro thing that came out today. The Hasbro, because there was that today as well.
Yeah, I'm getting that Rogue One Vader. There's no doubt that thing's beautiful.
I don't even
here
know.
We are. We got a couple of viewers. Wow,
that's great.
I think I'll go ahead and get started. Well, welcome to a live stream. This is the Action Figure Grader, John, and I am joined today by Blacked Out Ewoks, a good friend of mine.
Hi. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being on. And I wanted to start off this live. I wanted to start off this live stream real quick and say that this live stream is sponsored by @BountyHuntersGuild on Instagram. They are a friend of my channel, and they were the ones that supplied me with this guy, that guy, this right here, that Slave One, and they do a great job. The link to their eBay store is in their Instagram bio. @BountyHuntersGuild, they are the sponsor of today's live stream. So I want to let you know, Blacked Out Ewoks, that I cut my hair, what little I have left. I shaved.
I did the same.
Yeah, it looks good. Looks good.
I thought a ridge there.
Yeah, I thought I'd look nice, for the live stream. But welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us. We thought today we're only going to be about an hour, but we thought today might be fun to talk about some of the vintage Star Wars foreign variants by country. And most of the folks who are watching right now, they are pretty familiar with all of the different countries out there that produced some of the licensed figures back in the 1980s. But I thought for anyone who's watching that maybe is uninitiated to foreign variants, we might just start it off, Blacked Out Ewoks, if you're okay with this, to just talk briefly about some of the, or all, you might know more than I do here, but some or all of the different countries, maybe the names of the factories and things like that. So I'll turn it over to you, and then I'll just chime in as needed.
Okay, great. So if we start with the UK, I mean, that's quite... Palatoy was the British distributor, and a few pieces were also released by a company called Dennis Fisher. So those are the British issuer. You got 12 backs with the Palatoy with the famous red and blue logo, and then that went on to 20 backs. Empire Strikes Back. That logo sort of was phased out towards the end of Empire Strikes Back, and after that, with the Return of the Jedi carded figures, they had no logo at all. Those are the British figures, and then they moved on towards the tri-logo cards with the British, and that happened with the rest of the European distribution. So that was the British cards, so Palatoy. Then France was Meccano, and they had 12 back regular cards, which are quite scarce now, with the Meccano logo, which is in black and white. And then they moved to a square card with the next 8 figures, and reissued some of the earlier figures on that square card. These are quite well known and highly sought now. The Jawa, Meccano Jawa, is the most common one you'll find. Then the Ben Kenobi.
Death Squad Commander.
Yeah. And I mean, some of them are quite scarce. There was one on Vectis yesterday on the Vectis auction. It was an IG-88 on the Empire Strikes Back square card, and they had that estimated at £4,000 to £8,000, and it went for about 2,500. So it went way below.
That is way low. Way low.
Yeah. So I don't know why that happened, but so the French Meccano square card Empire Strikes Back figures are really scarce and hard to find, and usually can command quite a lot of money. Then they moved on to the Return of the Jedi cards, with the French logo, La Guerre des Étoiles, or Return of Jedi in French. And those cards don't have the Meccano logo at the front, just like the British cards. And they lasted for the first wave of Return of the Jedi figures, and then they, like Britain, moved to the tri-logo cards. So that's Britain and France. Then we'll go on to Benelux, or Benelux, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Clipper. So you could get 12 backs with a Clipper logo, with a red and blue logo. The Clipper logo did change to a black and white one as well. You could get Clipper on Empire Strikes Back cards, and they often had the offer printed at the top to get free prizes as well on the Empire Strikes Back cards. I'm not sure. I think by the time of Return of the Jedi, Clipper had moved to using either Palatoy or Kenner cards, and then just put stickers over them, and wrap around stickers. So a lot of foreign cards are often Kenner cards or Palatoy cards with stickers on them. And I've got a Chief Chirper, which is a Palatoy card with a Clipper
double
sticker.
offer.
Clipper stock.
Does it have a PvP offer on it? Also?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember that.
So I'll try and find a photograph on it on my phone in a minute. And then they moved on after the Return of the Jedi stickered cards. They moved on to tri-logos as well. Germany surprisingly didn't have any actual trial back cards that were specifically German. German cards were distributed by General Mills. You find with German cards mainly the 45 backs, which are a lot of them are Toy Tonys. We'll go into that later, yeah. And they don't have a logo at the front, but on the back they have German text at the bottom half of the card. So very similar to Palatoy cards, and I think it's believed that the German cards were printed in the UK and then sent over to Germany.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Huh.
So same with the Clipper cards as well. That's how Toy Tony ended up with so much 45 back Palatoys and German cards and a few Clipper cards as well. So that's the Dutch cards, or the Benelux. Then Italy had the 12 back Harbert cards. They're really nice cards. They're
beautiful.
Yeah. Guerre Stelliari logo at the top.
Yeah, with Stelliari, huh? You want the meatball, huh?
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
and then at the bottom it's Harbert. And then on the back, it's just typically laid out by like a normal 12 back, but with Italian writing and stuff like that. So it looks pretty cool. After that, there's the 12 back guest Stelliari. I think there's you can get the next 8 characters on the Italian cards as well, and they're pretty rare as well. And then after that, Empire Strikes Back. I think very rare to find an actual Italian carded Empire Strikes Back card, and they moved over to using stickers as well. Then it's probably the same with Return of the Jedi, using its stickers, and then tri-logos as well. Then Spain, which is probably something you really like, is started out in the 1980 with the pot cards. And yeah, there's some of those. The 37 back is an amazing card because it's got a totally unique card back, and that's highly sought. Excuse me.
Yeah, there was one on there was a Lando on Facebook, the Imperio Contratica, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah. And
mint on card, AFA 80, and I was drooling. And apparently he wanted about $4,000 for it. So it was well outside my budget, but it was awfully pretty to look at. So,
yeah, I saw that. I saw that one. Yeah, I saw that. After that, the sort of company merged and became PBP, and they put cards, Empire Strikes Back cards. What's unique about the Spanish stuff is that the figures were actually, the pot cards, the figures were made in Hong Kong and sent to Spain and painted in Spain. Then with the PvP cards, the figures were made in Spain,
right,
and painted in Spain and put on Spanish cards and other European cards as well, and that's led to quite a lot of unique variations with the PvP figures. Toxic Limbs, Bosk. That's a POC, isn't it? Sorry,
That's
Fat
POC.
Lips. Fat Lips is the
I got it.
PvPs.
Right here. Yeah, here's the Fat Lips. There we go. You can see that. Look how fat those lips are.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Other famous Spanish figures are like the PvP Dark Brown Rebel Soldier, the Black Neck Lando Calrissian, Red Armor Fall on there. That is a major Spanish figure there. So variant, highly sought. So then with the Return of the Jedi Spanish PvP figures, I think a lot of the figures were imported then, some from Mexico as well, and they were put onto Spanish cards and then moved over to Tri-Logos. So
that's an interesting point, BOE, because if you look at a number of the Lily Lettys, which I collect a lot of, obviously given my proximity to Mexico and how easy it is to get them, the molds on the PvP and the Lettys are exactly the same. So, for example, the Kenobi, the Leia Bespin, those are two pretty highly sought Lettys, but they're almost interchangeable with being PvPs because they're exact same mold. So that's a good point about the fact that they were brought over from Spain, when they were assembled there.
Mexico, yeah, that's because I've got the Rees carded, and it didn't appear in the first volume of the book, the PvP book, and it's in the second volume, which I just got recently, and so those are the Spanish. Obviously, they moved over to the Tri-Logo. You find a lot of the Spanish figures also sold in France and possibly in the UK as well.
Well, now that's another good question I've got for you, because I've always wondered about, and it's a mystery to me, but I've got this Palatoy 48 backseat Walrus Man.
Yeah,
and I've always thought of this one as a Meccano figure. He's got the really white tusks, but sorry about the glare, but is it a Meccano? Is it a PvP? I have no idea. I mean, obviously, some of the Walrusmen that were PvP had the Made in Spain cards that were sold in the US, but I have no idea about that Palatoy card as to whether that's a Meccano or if that's a PvP.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying in the last one we did, although that a lot of this is in its infancy, about categorizing figures and saying this is a definite Meccano or this is definite PvP figure, because if you find a lot of these figures that possibly came from Spain and then they were sold in France, then people in France are going to say this is a Meccano figure, whereas in fact so it's all sort of in its early days yet.
And Walrus Man's a tough one anyway, because you got the scar, you got the #1 date stamp where it's kind of rubbed out. You got the light green head PvP, which is a totally different figure versus the one that I had in my
it's the light green,
so that's a PvP, but who knows about that one that's in the anyway.
And then with the #1 stamp as well, that's most likely a PvP figure as well, because it's been more or less scarred out. You find that a lot with the Spanish figures. They've got quite a lot of scarring on the backs of the legs where it would have said Hong Kong. They've just scarred it out, with the YPS Snowtrooper sculpt and all that sort of stuff. But maybe we're getting
the scar, the PvP scar figures are fairly easy to, unless they're a very light rub or a light bump like the Han Solo PvP that I have. In general, though, the PvPs are fairly straightforward for identifying. It's the POCs that I have trouble with, since they were all Hong Kong parts. It's very difficult, unless it's a very custom paint job like the Toxic Limbs boss that you mentioned. Yeah. The POCs in general are much more difficult for me to identify correctly versus PvP.
Or the Dengar, which is the Dark Armor, which is a famous PvP variant, and you could any Dengar on a Tri-Logo card is most likely to be that version. So That's and that figure ended up sold in the UK, France, wherever. So okay, so we've done Europe now, I think, more or less. France, Germany. I don't think I've missed anything out. Then we can go on to Australia. Very scarce, very hard to find Australian carded vintage Star Wars.
Very hard.
All I've managed to collect in all my years is just card backs, and they're Return of the Jedi card backs. I mean, with a lot of these Australian carded figures, they resemble the US Kenner card, but the address at the back of the card, instead of Cincinnati, Ohio for the offers, is to New South Wales. So, it's that makes it highly sought, that New South Wales Australian address. But I mean, with early Australian 12 backs, Toy Toys was the distributor there. Those are just impossible to find. Most famous Australian variant must be the Toy Toys Vinyl Cape Jawa, which was released on a Empire Strikes Back card and has a sort of slightly, compared to the Kenner Vinyl Cape Jawa, it's got a more reddish hue to the cape, and that's a highly sought variant.
Very expensive.
Yeah. So those Toy Toys distributed in Australia and New Zealand, and the stuff is just, because it's distance from the UK and all of that, it's just so hard to find. I mean, you do see the odd Return of the Jedi carded Australian figure for sale.
Yes, I've seen like some 9 Yums. I've seen like Maydeen and a few others, but in general, you're right. I very rarely see them come up for sale. So thanks everyone for tuning in. It looks like we got 11 people. In case you are just joining us, we are talking about some of the different countries of origin for foreign licensed figures. So only licensed. We're not talking about bootlegs and things like that. But okay, so sorry to interrupt. So you're Toy Toys Australia. What's next?
South America. So South America's got some quite interesting figures. So Argentina, the Top Toys, not Toy Toys, Top Toys. There's very few of these figures. They came out during I assume they came out during the Return of the Jedi era. They are really nice cards, and let me see if I can find a picture of one. But
and you have correct me if I'm wrong. You got Stormtrooper, Vader, and Chewie all mint on card on the Top Toys card backs, which is an incredible run. And those figures, I'm going on memory here, so correct me if I'm wrong. The Top Toys figures are a little bit smaller, and they don't have any foot peg holes, correct?
Yeah, brilliant. Yes, exactly it. So
bubbles are extremely fragile. I know that. I know of a few collectors who have had some mint on card Top Toys, and those bubbles are not very secure, and a couple of them have popped off. So that's why I was always been so hesitant to buy one, given the price now.
Yeah, I mean, I got them when they were a lot more affordable. I mean, the Chewbacca was expensive, and that was like, it came up on a Galactables, and it was like, do I buy it? If I hesitate, it's going to be gone. So I made, it's something I've never really seen before. So I went and grabbed it. And but the Vader and the Stormtrooper, I got 2 of the Stormtroopers. They are, I mean, the Vader and the Stormtrooper I got back in '93. They're about 40 quid each. So
that's crazy. I mean, now they go for what, 900 to 1,000 minimum, I would say, if they're in good condition.
Well, the Vader's in top-notch condition. That's such a beautiful piece. And the first, I mean, with the Stormtrooper, you tend to find that it's often quite stained. The legs are quite brown.
Yes, I've seen that.
But I mean, that's the one that's the most common is the Stormtrooper. But when you say common, I mean, it's relative to what? But, if you're going to ever see a top, I'm trying to look for the picture. If you ever see one on, it's most likely going to be the Stormtrooper. Then they say the Darth Vader is the second most common, but I don't know. So, but
I've seen a few Vaders and Stormies. I've only seen one Chewbacca come up for sale, in the last 3-4 years. So I think that your decision to purchase that Chewbacca was probably a good call, given how frequent they come up.
Yeah, and then I mean, some of those figures are like the Luke Jedi and Yoda are just so hard to find, and I mean, people would just jump on them and they'll go for a lot of money. So yeah. Okay, so that's Argentina. Then we're going to go into Brazil. I'll try and find pictures in a minute and show them. Brazil. So Brazil was a bit later, 1988, and that was by a company called Glasslighty. So they came on quite big cards, generic cards.
They're beautiful, though. You have such an incredible run of those.
I've got the Luke, one
of the droid figures, I think.
Excuse me, R2. Two of the droids, yeah. I got R2 and George Dusat.
Yes, that's what it was.
I found the storm. Well, there's an Argentine stormtrooper. Anyhow, let's see if I can. It's a bit bright. Let me move.
It's okay. It's fine. There it is.
That
logo, that little red logo up top, is so cool to see.
Yeah. So that's a really nice stormtrooper there. That one's graded as well. So, yeah. Okay. So, all right, Glasslighty, 1988. So these figures again were made in Brazil. So they look quite different to the Kenner regular figures. The first lot were Power of the Force. So you got Luke, Han. Han came with the Jara blaster. Princess Leia, I think she came with the Jara blaster as well. Darth Vader, the Snowtrooper is something like Gerio Imperial or Imperio. He doesn't have the cape though. Chewbacca, C-3PO.
Right. It's got a really bright blue. It's got a really bright blue blaster.
Yeah, C-3PO in a sort of bronzy color, and R2-D2. If I've missed any out, please forgive me. I'm doing this from memory. Okay, then after that, they did the droids as well. So they did the R2-D2 in the droid style, which is quite unique. Mr. Domo Toys really wants that figure. The C-3PO in the sort of animated style. George Dusat, Kezeban, I think. Vlix, which is the most famous Glasslighty figure. You know, Vlix is just because that never got released in the USA. It was going to be released, but never did. But the Brazilians actually put it out on a card, so that's a holy grail figure, the Vlix. And yeah, so that was Brazil. Peru had figures, Kenner cards with the Bassa. Yeah, so
nice.
And then Mexico, obviously Lily Lede. So maybe they were started in the 1980s with Empire Strikes Back carded figures. Then they really took off with the Return of the Jedi figures. These figures are highly sought. There's two types of back. There's a negative and positive. I think there's about 50 plus figures that were released by Lily Lede.
While you're talking about that, let's show people what they're talking about, because I actually have both of those here, so we can.
Yeah.
So when he talks about the positive card backs, that's what the standard Lily Lede card back looks like. Just a typical kind of gray cardboard with a black drawing or inked outlines of the figures. So this is the back of a typical positive card back. And then, if you watch my channel, you saw that I got back my Biker Scout. And so this is what's called a negative card back. And so that's got, I'm sorry about the glare, but this has got the exact opposite. So all the figures are outlined in the gray, while the background's in black. So that's what he's talking about with positive versus negative. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
And the card front, if you show the card front, it looks so nice because it's got the I think this is why these cards are so popular with the US collectors. It's got the Lily Lede logo, which looks so cool. The Return of the Jedi logo at the top, La Guerra de las Galaxies, just looks El Regreso de Jedi. That just looks so cool. Once you've collected all the Kenner cards, where do you go next? You want to go to foreign cards and variations. And I mean, Lily Lede has it all. You got the figures have major variations, like that biker scout there has got the short mouth, so that's a major variant there. You know, a lot of the Mexican figures are just highly sought because of all the different variations. You know, short mouth biker scout. What other ones? The Emperor's Royal Guard with the sort of more skeletal hands. A lot of them come with different accessories. The Cloud Car Pilot with the bright yellow. So, yep. So with Mexican stuff, you've got two ways of collecting it. I mean, unless you got in the early days, you could have probably got quite a few carded. But now it's probably best to collect the like what Action Figure Grader does, which is loose graded. Just get the variations, you know, and yeah. I mean, also with the Mexican stuff, a lot of it was sold in America on Return of the Jedi Kenner cards, and that's called MIM or MIM. So quite, you know, Squid Head's quite famous, one of those.
I just sent one of those off. I just sent one of those off to get graded by Collector Archive, made in Mexico Squid Head. So yeah, it's a easy, cheaper way. It's a really inexpensive way. What's inexpensive really when you're doing vintage Star Wars? But if you're looking to get into like the Mexican figures, that's a really good way to get into those at a relatively inexpensive cost, is with the Made in Mexico card backs. You're right.
Yeah. And I mean, also you could say the same, that the 4 Cantina Aliens were sold on Kenner cards, but they were PvP figures. So, you know, yep. So Lily Lede did the Return of the Jedi figures. Some figures are entirely made in Mexico, like all Lumats and all Paplus are all worldwide are made in Mexico. So
one thing I did want to note that a lot of people, one thing that people don't know is that the very early and Mr. Galaxy ERK, he's on here, as you guys can see. He's got a channel of his own, and his Letty collection blows mine out of the water. If you ever want to check out his channel, his collection of Lily Letty, both mint on card and loose graded like mine, are just unbelievable. But one thing that a lot of collectors don't know is that for the early Lily Lettys that came on Imperio Empire Strikes Back cards, there are 3 early Letty figures that I very rarely see. But Han Hoth, the Rebel Soldier, the Hoth Rebel Soldier, and then the Hoth Stormtrooper. Those are actually Lily Letty figures, but I very, very seldom ever see them come up. But I do know that they did make those. So anyway, wow. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, that's something I never knew. So thanks for telling me that.
I've seen a few. I've seen a few of them. I've seen, Jose Del Toro. He's a pretty famous Letty collector. He has those. I have seen photos of them. It's pretty incredible to see those.
For my Mexican, I tend to watch Mad Hunter, even though a lot of it's in Spanish. He's great. And so yeah, I mean, some of the later Ewoks figures like the Logray and the cartoon series, they were made in Mexico as well. And
I didn't know that.
Yes, so yeah. So my and then so from Mexico, I think we covered Mexico. We'll go to Canada. So Canada has got quite an interesting. So they're 12 backs. So you can find them with 2 Star Wars logos. So you can have the Star Wars logo in English at the top, and then a sort of almost triangular La Guerre des Étoiles at the bottom. Those are highly sought cards. Some of the 12 backs don't have the like double logo at the front. I think on the back of the Canadian cards, they have the character listings twice in English and French.
I've never seen one of those. I'll have to look one of those up. I've never actually seen one of those.
I've got a card. Yeah, I've got a card back, just a card back, not with the figure on it.
Oh wow!
So it's got on the back. It's got English and French, but and then the 20 backs. Like I recently showed a Snaggletooth Canadian card.
Yeah, that's a beauty. That is a beauty. I remember that.
Yeah. So on the front, it's got the Star Wars logo. On the back, it's got the French logo. Really nice. Then they moved on to Empire. I mean, French Kenner, I mean, not French, Canadian Kenner sort of mirrors US releases, but with the both languages. So it's
Right.
it's. I mean, the most famous Canadian stuff is the transition cards, which are just before Return of the Jedi came out. The Canadians or Canada
Canucks. Eh?
I'm getting tongue tied now. They are.
That was for Conception. That was for Conception 32. I think he's in Canada, so I'm just making fun of him a little bit. But go ahead.
They took the remaining Empire Strikes Back cards and stuck Return of the Jedi stickers over the Empire Strikes Back logo, the back of the card with an offer for Admiral Akbar, and a circular offer on where the picture is for the offer, and those are called transition cards. They're pretty highly sought now. So
yeah, one just sold, the Bespin security guard, the black Bespin security guard. They had a mint on card in the Deal or No Deal group, but that one did sell for $650, and it was it's probably 75 condition. So
yeah,
it was less than I thought it was going to go for, but that was a pretty nice card.
I think the Black Bespin guard's one of the most common ones. So I've got the Luke X-Wing on the transition, which I bought 10 years ago. So
yeah, that's a beauty. It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if I can find the picture.
There cannot be many of those out there. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen another of the Luke X-Wing like that. There can only be maybe a handful, if that, of those.
That's the card back I got of the Canadian transition.
And so if you're looking at that, for those viewing, there's a sticker slapped over top of the former Empire Strikes Back, on the actual Empire Strikes Back card back, but it's a sticker that went over top of it, transitioning from Empire Strikes Back to the Return of the Jedi. So that's why they're called transition, since they have that transition sticker up top. Very rare, though. Very rare.
It's nothing to do with gender. Okay, so I mean, Canada. I mean, what I like about the Canadian stuff is their stuff is it goes up to the 77 backs, so you can get Canadian 77 backs. So it's probably if you wanted the longest run of foreign cards, it's probably most achievable with the Canadian cards, because you get up to the 77, you get up to Paplu and Lumat. Mm-hmm. All on Canadian cards, and then obviously Yak Face is on a Canadian Power of the Force card. They say that like Anakin Skywalker on the Power of the Force, the Nikto Attack Driver, and Gamorrean Guard, those were only released in Australia. So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I want a collector. Hey, I want a collector archive services gift card during their trivia night. By knowing that, it was awesome.
Oh, wow.
I felt really special.
So
one other area that we hadn't talked about was Japan.
That's it. Yeah. Because I had a picture lined up of a 12-back Darth Vader. So Japan.
Okay. You're on top of it.
Japan's probably one of the most confusing, because there's 3 groups that distributed. So first you got Takara, then you got Poppy, and then you got Sakuda. So Takara did the 12 backs. They took mainly US cards and just put a little sticker on them, but there are a few unique Japanese 12 backs that including the Darth Vader, the C3PO, which have different head sculpts of Stormtrooper as well. And I mean, this one here is just a regular Kenner Darth Vader 12 back with the let me see if I can get in focus with the Takara sticker there.
So for those viewing, you can kind of see at the bottom right below the Vader on the card back, that's got a little Takara sticker with Japanese writing. They're highly sought. And correct me if I'm wrong here, there's also a Vader with the alternate head sculpt, and it's got a white background behind the bubble. That's one of those was for sale, I think, for like $4,000 or $5,000. I mean, it was just crazy.
Yeah. And then after the 12 backs, I don't know if they did the next 8 characters with stickers. They must have all. And then during the Empire Strikes Back, it was Poppy. Those World of Action figures, I think they're called. They came in boxes. There's about 15 figures released. They're highly sought now. Used to find them in the UK like 20 odd years ago, more than 20 years ago, in collecting events, but often they were missing the leaflets and stuff like that, and the boxes were pretty shabby. But you know, those Poppies are quite hot now. Then after
they really capture Japan, though. You know, when I see those with the little boxes, I wish I had one to show everybody, but it reminds me a lot of like something you'd see in like a vending machine in Tokyo, you know, like something that you would just have pop out of a vending machine. They're just really, really cool to see. Yeah.
And then, I mean, and they had other figures, because on the back of the leaflet, it's got the Power Rangers on them as well and stuff like that. So, yeah. So that was Poppy. After Poppy, they Return of the Jedi figures they were US cards with stickers on them. So the sticker would be on the lower 2/3 or third of the back of the card with all the Japanese text and stuff like that. So
I really love those Sakudas. They're such beautiful card backs, and I think I've got a squid head coming back here soon from the graders, but I don't know. I don't know what it is about those Sakudas. They don't come up much in the U.S. My one experience trying to buy one in Japan did not go well, as you remember, with that Bausch I bought. Oh. So I've just stayed away from buying. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, I bought a Bausch with a Sakuda Japanese card back, and it just shattered on me on the way here. It is terrible. Right there. But that's what the backs of those Japanese cards look like. They have all Japanese writing at the bottom. They're very, very cool. I've got a low gray and then a squid head coming back soon, but very difficult to find here in the U.S. for some reason. I mean, they come up occasionally, but they're either heavily yellowed or heavily beat up by the time they get over here.
Yeah, I mean, this one's got a yellow bubble as well. That's the Neon Numb. So yeah, but they're really nice. I mean, if you want something foreign, I think the Sakudas the prices aren't in the stratosphere yet. So, you know, it's more, if you wanted to get something foreign that's not going to break the bank, so to speak, the Sakuda is one way to go.
Yeah, while we're on that topic, let's talk about that. So in my opinion, this is just my opinion, you can chime in if you disagree. Mm-hmm. You know, let's say you're an average collector who does not have a massive wallet. To me, the most affordable foreign mint on card figures would probably be the Sakudas, the Made in Mexicos, the Kenner Canadas. Are those really the three that you can think of that would be, you know, I guess Palatoy would be, just straight Palatoy Return of the Jedi cards would be the other one.
Yeah. I mean,
some tri-logos, I guess.
With the Palatoy, it's like something like the Klaatu figure, because that one you always see. Klaatu.
You get that for like $75. I mean, 50, $75, you can get a nice mint on card Klaatu Palatoy. Yeah. I mean, that's nice. Well, we got about 20 minutes left. I think we did a pretty nice job of giving a general overtour. But what I'd like to ask you is, you know, you've been doing this a long time, way longer than I have. I would love to hear, you know, for those like me who are fairly newbies, I think folks might like to hear what your experience was during the dark days of vintage Star Wars collecting, like in the 1990s, early 1990s, when nobody wanted this stuff. What was your experience like, and what were the kind of some example prices like for some of these what are now super expensive, rare foreign card backs?
I think in the early 90s, that's when I started, 93, 94. The first foreign card I ever picked up was the 12-back Meccano Princess Leia, and that was because I'd seen one in Forbidden Planet, that's a sci-fi shop in London. I had to have one. It just sort of, even though I never had the figure as a child, my sister might have, but I never did. I had to have it. It's something, it just triggered something in me that I saw it at Forbidden Planet, and then it brought back all that nostalgia, and so I wanted to get it. So I went to the Comic Mart in London. In those days, there used to be about 4 or 5 major ones. Now there's just one left, and it's hardly very empty compared to how it used to be, mainly because of eBay and stuff like that. But so I went there, met a guy called a dealer, and John Chamberlain, and he had, I started talking, and I bought a tri-logo Han Solo, and said I wanted a Princess Leia, and he said you can have a choice. You can have the Meccano 12 back or the tri-logo for the same price of £80. So I chose the Meccano, and
Smart
took
man.
that. Yeah. Then, like, when I went to all these events, often Return of the Jedi foreign card, like a Meccano Yoda on the Return of the Jedi card with the long bubble, that was like £20 at the most. So obviously I snagged that. The Chewbacca Meccano Return of the Jedi card must have been about the same price, 20 quid, 30 at the most. Then a lot of the tri-logo miscards, they were pretty, £10 each.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Less than that even. And then
crazy.
Other foreign cards, like there's a magazine called Model and Collectors Mart, and they had adverts, and I remember around 96, 97 looking through the pages of this magazine, and it's say it had like, and I never took the offer up, it was just really silly, Harbert 12 backs for about less than £100 each.
Wow.
So they had the Jawa, probably the Chewbacca, Death Squad Commander, and I just sort of missed that offer. I mean, I got this one.
What do you think? Where or when do you think that these foreign cards that in the early 90s, just like everything else, was being dumped? At what point did collectors start putting that massive premium on them? Some of these items that you just talked about go for many thousands of dollars now. But at what point was there kind of like a triggering in collectors' minds where they realize, wow, there's probably not many of these out there. I should really grab this, and the prices spiked accordingly.
Probably when collectors sort of linked together more via Rebel Scum and all that sort of stuff, and just started to share knowledge about all these different foreign figures. So with the rise of the internet, people from other countries could talk about what was available in the 70s and 80s in their countries, and that would pique interest for people in the US and the UK, and that they might see if they could get figures from those countries. And I mean, for me, I just think they look cool. I just like the sort of exoticness of these figures. They look a bit, they have the appearance of a Kenner card, but then the text is in Spanish or Italian, and subsequently we've learned that these figures are different, that like this PBP red snaggletooth is unique to Spain, and it's darker gray and all that sort of stuff.
I think for me, like I pretty much collect anything vintage, but I do like the story of all of the different factories from all over the country, all over the world, and just the small subtle differences in the manufacturing. And for me, I have relatively easy access to Letties, and I like the overstocks, the unpainted figures, the non-sonic. Well, because Letty was going out of business, and this stuff was probably dumped for nothing back in the early days, but now they're pretty highly sought just to it tells the story from Lily Letty's early days when they were still making made in Mexico's, to when they were closing down, and they're doing Frankensteins, they're doing just non-sonic welded overstock parts, and all these kind of weird foreign paint schemes, like with the PvP and pox. It's just another little small segment of that you can do, for loose graded. I'm not talking for mint on card, but for loose graded, for someone like me who came in late, it's a nice way to add a little flair to your collection. Or if you have a loose graded standard Kenner figure made in Hong Kong, to get the foreign variant to be able to compare to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because you could get with the Mexicans, the burgundy caped squid head or bib Fortuna, and they're just because the color of the cape is so different, it commands a massive amount of money. And then with all these figures, even like the Nien Num I picked up earlier this year, it's got a lot more. The red of the uniform's a different shade, so
the skin. I was pretty amazed at the differences when you laid those two next to each other in your video, and showing everything from the hands to the feet to the red of the uniform. It's just little subtle differences like that I find pretty fascinating. Pixelated. I get it. I see what you did there with your name. What is your favorite foreign piece in your collection from each of you? So I'll let you go first.
Favorite? Oh my gosh. Maybe that. Let me think.
You have so much; it's hard for you to narrow it down.
Maybe because it's unique. I'd say that Transition Luke X-Wing, the Canadian Transition Luke X-Wing, which is quite,
it's so insanely rare. It's just unbelievable.
Also, because Princess Leia is one of my favorite characters. The Italian 12-back and the French Meccano 12-back, those are really nice as well. So
yeah, those are items that are just that blow anything out of the water that I got. I guess that I would say, I don't know. I think because it's so weird, that unpainted Lily Letty C-3PO. These aren't particularly hard to get, overstock, but to get that hasn't been chromed yet, or whatever you want to call it, hasn't gone through the paint process. That's pretty rare. I don't see many of those. I've seen a few pop up in recent collections, but I like those unpainted items, things like that. So pretty cool. Yeah.
Obscure. I think maybe as a collector, you sort of take pride if you've got something quite unique or obscure. You think, I'm the only one with this. They're all going to be so jealous when I show it. It's just, I don't know, maybe it sort of gives you that sort of capital to go into a convention or something like that, and knowing you've got all these rare figures, and that's why I like showing them on YouTube. In a way, it's showing off, isn't it? So
yeah. I think there's a lot of that. I agree with that. I try not to feel too overconfident or anything like that, but it's always fun to I really enjoy when you buy something new and I'm like, oh man, I want that so bad. Or, or anybody really. Boss or, Boss Bounty or whoever. I love Mr. Galaxy ERK. Occasionally he'll private message me. He's like, yeah, I just picked up these 4 mint on card Lily Letties. It's just crazy to see a lot of the different items that folks get. And it almost motivates you a little bit. It motivates me anyway to oh man, okay, I gotta find something cool. I gotta save up my money and find something cool. So it's always fun. And that's the joy of it, is that there's so many limitless segments of the collecting, of Star Wars collecting, vintage, that you can take it any direction you want, and if whether it's a run of all of the same, or if it's a one country all the same, or if it's or character or whatever it is. But I just enjoy the aspect of sharing what I got coming back from the graders, and then 2 days later I see something that you get And I'm like, wow, I really wish I had that. So, you know, it's that's the fun of it, I think.
I think with our collections, both of us, we're quite eclectic. We're not very focused. I mean,
No,
you
that's true.
know, it's like get a bit of this, get a bit of that. Obviously, with me, it's like looking, especially nowadays, it's like looking at what's affordable and you know,
Oh, there's no
I mean,
doubt. I mean, I'm the same way.
so
I mean, you know, we all have our own budgets, right? But I mean, you know, I love drooling over stuff on Facebook or even on eBay that I know that I will never be able to afford. I enjoy drooling over stuff that you put on YouTube. I'd never be able to afford 3/4 of some of this stuff, but it's so fun to at least see it and to learn about it, you know?
I wouldn't be able to afford it now. It's only like 20 odd 30, almost 30 years now that, you know, I just got to be in my bonnet about collecting foreign stuff. And, you know, so here's 3 in a row. This is let's see if I can focus it.
Yeah, this is a really cool one. Tell everybody about that one.
It's quite common. It's a French Meccano miss card. So you've got Luke Skywalker on a Yarn Solo Meccano card. So cool. That's quite and that back then cost me no more than £10, £20 at the most.
Yeah, and for those viewing, I mean, relatively, you know, so he paid £10 or £20 for that. I did see one. I don't know if it ever sold, but I did see one that was graded. That was, I think, like an AFA 80 or 75, and they wanted, you know, $4,000 plus for. So that gives you guys who are watching just an indication of how much some of this foreign stuff, especially miss cards, have just skyrocketed.
Let's see if I can focus it.
Yeah, so for those who can't see, what is this?
It's a Brazilian.
That's good.
Brazilian Glasslighty Luke Skywalker.
I mean, just insanely rare stuff. This is, you know, a multi-thousands of dollars now to try and find one of these. So
around
I love that card back. That card back is that card back looks like the beginning of a 1980s action show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Charlie's Angels or something, you know?
Very nice. So that this back in 91, 93, 94 was about £38. And then in 2009, I was at I think the London Film and Comic Con, and there was another one there, and it was £75, and I should have bought it, and I never did, you know. So that was a big mistake. And then I'll show you one more. So this is an interesting one. It's a British Palatoy. Let me see if I can get it in focus. So it's Luke Bespin Palatoy, 65 back, so it's not Toy Tony, and it's got dark boots, so it's a Spanish figure.
Oh, that's nice. The PvP. Hey, we got about BOE. We got about 5 minutes left. I do want to speak, especially for anybody who's a fairly new collector. I do want to bring up the Toy Tony scandal. Most longtime collectors, or every longtime collector, is I'm sure heard of this, but for those that are interested in getting into foreign vintage, I think it's important to touch on it for a couple of minutes before we got to wrap it up.
Okay, so Toy Tony came to light around towards the end of 2013, and what it was a dealer called Toy Tony who I'd met in '94 in a comic thing in London, and bought off him a 12-back Harbour and a German Empire Strikes Back Han Solo. So what it turns out is that he came across a load when after the Palatoy factory closed down. I think a lot of the unused card backs came into a dealer's hands, and then he was able to secure hit those cards and the blisters. So they were mainly Palatoy cards, which are Empire Strikes Back 45 back C and some 65 back cards. A lot of quite a few German cards, 45 backs. So yeah, like that. That's a Return of the Jedi Palatoy 65 back. That C3PO is really common, and
this is probably the most common Toy Tony for those watching.
Yeah. So a guy in the UK, Mr. Palatoy, who's got a website and focuses on Palatoys, got sort of suspicious about all these Palatoy cards because they were all getting graded by AFA and then UKG at really high grades, like 85s and 90s, and that sort of triggered an alarm in his head. And I mean, there's a video about this on YouTube, you can check it out. And then he sort of worked out that these cards, the bubbles, and there's something wasn't quite right about them. There was no impression on the back of the cards, like
they were too perfect.
Yeah, more or less too perfect. And so once the Toy Tony scandal came to light, it affected a lot of Palatoy 45 back cards, 45 back C cards, and a few of the Return of the Jedi Palatoys as well. That C3PO, is very common. The Snowtrooper, the Luke Farm Boy, and the 45 back C, which I paid a lot for that one, and a lot of the German cards. So a huge amount of what's left of in the realms of German collecting will be Toy Tony now. So
yeah, and on that note, for those watching, you might want to tune in to check out Blacked Out Ewoks, his YouTube channel. He just posted, I think, a video of his Bosk on the German 45 back. That is the Toy Tony. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, I bought them off it because he used to advertise in the collecting magazines back in the 90s. So I bought some off him in the early 2000s. So I bought 4 of them. I bought always, I must have about 12, 13, 14 of them now. So, I think after the, people found out, a lot of collectors just dumped the stuff. They just sold it on eBay for whatever they could get on it. And so the prices plunged. And what we've both noticed now is that 7 years later, the prices are creeping back up and up. Yeah. So
well, and let's emphasize this part. When we say Toy Tony, they're not exactly a fake for those watching. All of the components, the figure, the blister, the card back, they're all original vintage Star Wars pieces. But this guy Toy Tony was the one that assembled them after the fact. They were not factory assembled. So but a lot of them early on did pass muster with AFA and UKG. And so my only advice for those who are fairly new into the collecting world is that, go to Mr. Palatoy's website. A number of different groups do have full lists of all the different card backs that were affected by this, as well as estimated numbers for each character. Yeah. So just make sure you do your homework before you overpay, because there are eBay sellers that will not disclose that it's Toy Tony, and so you got to be careful there. But yeah. Well, we're about an hour in. Do you want to wrap up with any kind of final thoughts on foreign vintage? I think, why don't we wrap up with this? If you had your druthers with our current budgets, what do you think would be your next foreign item that you'd like to have in your collection?
For me, maybe a foreign 12-back Luke, maybe a Canadian or a Meccano, something like that. So something, if I could, right. A Meccano square card Luke Skywalker.
That would be nice. I was saying within our budgets, but maybe your budget's different than mine.
No. I thought you meant unlimited in my budget. Let me think.
If you hit the lottery, then yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out. I can't pay that though.
No. Last year, I got that FX7 on the German cards, so I bought that because it was foreign. It's a low population Toy Tony figure. And I look up Mr. Palatoy's website on that figure. According to their information, it should have English text at the top of the card, but my one doesn't. So, what's going on there?
Yeah, it's very possible it could be a legitimate one. You never know.
And the bubble has the number, like Palatoy blisters have numbers, so that one has
it's
numbers.
Probably real.
So,
it's probably real.
Could be,
even
could
if it's not.
Be.
Even if it's not a toy, even if it is a toy, Tony, it doesn't matter because that thing is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Can we? Hey, let's. We should probably wrap up now. I just want to say thank you for taking. We could literally talk about just one of these topics for another hour. So maybe we'll do that next time. But for those that tuned in, we really appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, this live stream was brought to you guys by. Yeah, thanks for listening. This live stream was brought to you by Bounty Hunters Guild at Bounty Hunters Guild on Instagram. Is this a drawing? Who drew this?
A relative of mine. So
awesome. I love it.
His sister drew that.
Oh yeah, that's great. Oh, hold on. I want to show you my son's drawing. Hold on one second. So, all right, since we're showing drawings, here's my son's. He did.
Oh, great!
TIE Fighter. He did R2.
RPG, yeah.
Brilliant. And then he did a really bow-legged C-3PO.
Yeah.
But I like the R2. It's good.
Yeah.
But it's pretty funny. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for watching, and we will be back soon. We'll do it again soon, BOE.
Yep, great.
All right. Talk to you all soon.
Bye. Bye.